We talk about achieving success, but actually maintaining the success we've built is something that rarely gets talked about. Everyone romanticizes the arrival, but forgets the maintenance. Most of us dream about getting there, whether that's the success, the love, the freedom, the version of life that feels like finally we've made it. We picture that moment of arrival, but we don't necessarily picture the everyday energy it will take to sustain what we've built. So we don't necessarily think of the emotional bandwidth, the boundaries, the consistency, the staying power. And the thing is, success isn't just a single moment, it's an ongoing relationship with yourself, your energy, your choices, your evolution. Now, if you secretly resent what it takes to keep what you've created, that resentment quietly shapes what you're allowed to receive next. You can attract what you desire, but you can only keep what you're at peace sustaining. Now, if you are somebody who's ever achieved something you thought would make you happy, only to feel overwhelmed by what it might take to maintain it, then this episode is for you. Let's dive in. Welcome to the She Leads podcast, a space that empowers women like you to build success in a way that feels authentic, energizing, and aligned with who you really are. In a world that tries to convince us that success means hustling harder and following everyone else's rules, we're here to rewrite the script. This is about success that feels nourishing, not depleting. Success that brings the fulfillment, impact, and recognition you deserve, whilst ultimately giving you the financial power to create the future you want and inspire meaningful change in the world around you. Make sure to hit the follow button so that you never miss an episode, and come and say hello on Instagram. You can find us at she_leads.academy. Let's dive in. Hello ladies, and welcome to a brand new episode of the She Leads show. I think it's very easy, at least it is for me, to visualize what I want. I can put together a vision board, I can close my eyes and dream up the dream house that I'm buying, or the places that I want to travel to, or I can see the success that I want to see. And maybe you're the same. Maybe you're somebody who's perhaps done a lot of work around the clarity of your desires, and you have a good idea of the life you want to create and what that will look like when you get there. But have you thought about what happens when you do get there? Because I think this is something that not many people talk about, the work that begins after the goal is reached. We don't often consider the everyday energy it takes to sustain what we've built. So yes, we can visualize the business thriving, but we don't necessarily think of the emotional labor of staying visible when we'd rather hide. We can perhaps crave financial freedom, but we maybe forget that abundance comes with choices, with taxes, with new forms of responsibility. We can maybe picture what we want love to look like, but maybe we don't consider what it means to show up for somebody when the novelty fades away or when the real intimacy begins. So we often chase this feeling of more, but the moment we receive more, we actually realize more isn't just a feeling. It's actually a frequency that you have to ultimately hold. So every new level of your life, whether it's a new financial level, it's a new level of visibility within your business or success or love, that next level carries an energetic vibration. And when it enters your world, your nervous system, your beliefs, your habits, they have to match that vibration in order to be able to hold it. And this is why sometimes people can get what they want. Maybe that's the business milestone, the financial milestone, the promotion, the soulmate. But they can then feel strangely uncomfortable when they have that thing, because their external reality has expanded, but their inner energy hasn't yet caught up. So instead of feeling abundant, for example, they actually feel very anxious. Maybe they were hoping to feel free once they had the successful business, but instead they feel this heavy weight of responsibility. Having more in their life actually demands the energetic capacity, not just desire. And so when we think of manifestation, law of attraction, it's not just about asking for things. It's about preparing yourself to hold the frequency of what you're asking for. It means regulating your energy so that abundance or success, these things don't feel like pressure. So many people don't even talk about, maybe because they don't even realize it's there, this resentment that we often feel at the weight of what we're asking for. So yes, we can dream of that next level. We ask the universe for more. We work for it. We manifest it. We visualize it. But underneath, there is that resistance where we're thinking, yes, I want this, but I'm already exhausted by what it might take to actually keep it. So this is that silent, subtle resentment that sits below the surface. And it's not that we resent the dream itself. It's about what we think the dream will demand from us. So it's things like the pressure, the expectations, the responsibility of sustaining something that maybe once felt really light and really exciting. Now, success, in many ways, it demands energy, not necessarily energy as in effort, I need to work hard, but actual energetic integrity. Success asks you, can you hold this without slipping back into your old ways? Can you keep your heart open when more people are watching? Can you stay aligned when the stakes are possibly higher? And sometimes the honest answer is no, not because we're incapable, but because we've never learned how to hold without hardening. So we were perhaps taught how to strive for things, push for things, to work for things, but we weren't necessarily told how to sustain things, and there's a difference. So a lot of us have learned that success comes through effort, but not necessarily through embodiment. So we've learned to push, to prove, to perform. Many of us have really mastered the art of getting there, getting what we want, but not necessarily the softness of staying there. So having what we want and it feeling soft and easy. Because for many of us, we've not actually been taught how to hold joy without waiting for it to be taken away. No one's perhaps showed us how to receive love without preparing for disappointment. No one's maybe modeled what it looks like to grow without stress or tension, or to expand ourselves without fear of collapse. So when life does finally give us what we've been asking for, we instinctively brace, we tense up, our nervous system goes on high alert, scanning for what could go wrong. And this is where, we feel ourselves get anxious, we micromanage things, we try to protect things. This is what I mean when I say we harden. And it's not because we don't deserve what we want or we can't handle it. It's because we've mistaken vigilance for safety. We equate being strong with being guarded. We equate being capable with being constantly in control. And I remember experiencing this in my own life where, I've worked for things. I've worked very, very hard for things and finally they've come through. A big opportunity may show up for me and it's maybe a dream that I'm like, oh yes, finally this has materialized. But instead of feeling that ease or gratitude, I feel pressure. I feel pressure to maintain it. And this translates into working into overdrive, planning how not to mess it up, making sure I can prove that I deserve this opportunity, making sure that things don't fall apart. And the thing that I had been wishing for, it arrives, but I'm meeting that thing with a lot of tension and anxiety. That's what happens when we don't know how to hold without hardening. We turn our blessings into these burdens because we've never learned another way to feel safe in our success. And then even as we grow, a part of us remembers how exhausting achievement felt the last time. So, we can expand our capacity to receive, but there'll be a part of us that thinks, well, remember last time you achieved something? It was so exhausting to get there. And that part of us resents what success might demand from us again the next time. So it might be things like the long hours, the constant availability, this invisible pressure to perform, this fear that joy might come with strings attached. And so this is what I mean by this resentment. In one breath, we're saying we want all of those things, but below the surface, we're quietly resenting what we feel it might command of us once we finally have those things. And this resentment can disguise itself as procrastination, telling ourselves, oh, it's bad timing here. Maybe it shows up as that voice of self-doubt. It's not that we don't want the success, it's that some part of us fears it will cost us the spaciousness or peace that we've perhaps worked so hard to reclaim. Now, the thing is, often this resentment is not a conscious thing. We don't necessarily realize every time we say, I want more or I desire this, that our subconscious adds, but not if it means losing myself again. And so this is why manifestation, if you've perhaps felt sometimes inconsistent with calling things into your life, this is why. It's because we're trying to attract abundance or success whilst vibrating in resistance to what we believe abundance and success requires. Now, to actually get the kind of success that lasts, it's not just about creating more, it's about creating it in a way that feels sustainable. Because you can't attract what you secretly fear will take you away from yourself. You know, if you secretly fear having something, having success, for example, will mean losing yourself, you are going to struggle attracting that thing into your life because you've got this underlying resistance. You can't hold what your energy believes will hurt to keep. Now, when I think about this, sometimes I actually think creating the desire is actually a lot easier than maintaining it, because when we're chasing a dream, everything feels very alive. The vision is full of potential, it's new, it's limitless, it's untouched by reality. We can imagine it however we want, and that imagination, it feels really electric. The almost there energy gives us something to look forward to, something that makes us feel like we're expanding. But then once we actually get what we wanted, maybe it's the money, the job, the love, the business, the recognition, that energy can actually change. And the excitement we once felt actually starts to quieten down, because what was once a dream, it becomes our real life. And that real life actually comes with responsibilities, it comes with maintenance, it comes with emotional effort. And we often romanticize the becoming, but we don't know how to feel equally alive in actually just being. So being with our desires. When we're chasing something, we're in that motion. That movement can feel like meaning, excitement. But when we arrive, we have to hold what we've built. And that requires a completely different type of energy. It requires stability, presence, trust. It's less adrenaline and more embodiment. And for many of us, that shift actually feels very uncomfortable. And maybe you've experienced this yourself. Have you ever felt it where the chase actually feels safer than the arrival? You know, when you're striving, you feel like you're in control of the story. You know, that dream is being kept alive in your imagination. Nothing can go wrong. But once we have it, it becomes very real. And it also feels that things could change, things could fade. Maybe we lose what we've built. And this is why we often find ourselves addicted to the next thing, kind of that shiny object syndrome. And we maybe tell ourselves it's ambition, or I just get bored easily. But sometimes it's actually avoidance. It's easier to keep chasing something new than it is to just sit still and feel the vulnerability of actually having everything we've ever wanted. Now, the trick is to really sort of find this balance. It's learning how to find expansion in having, not just in the wanting. When we can feel as alive in fulfillment as we do in the pursuit of something. Now, something that's just come up for me as I'm talking about this, I think this is something else that don't people talk about, is that it's not just about what you desire, calling in what you desire that matters. You also need to think about why you want it, who you actually are when you are reaching for that desire. So a lot of people just think about what they want, but don't necessarily ask, why do I actually want this? And maybe at first the answer seems quite obvious. Oh, I want this because I believe having this would make me happy, because I deserve it, because I believe it's a part of my purpose. But if you often peel back the layers, you may find that the real energy underneath the desire is actually fear. A lot of what we create or what we think we desire isn't coming from inspiration, it's coming from insecurity. So maybe we chase a business idea because we're scared to be seen as average. We chase success because we are afraid of just being mediocre. Maybe we overperform because we're terrified somebody might think we're not good enough. Maybe we stay busy because slowing down means feeling the emptiness that we've been avoiding. Now, this is very sneaky because fear, it can really disguise itself as ambition. It can sound responsible, driven, but energetically, fear-fueled creation, it's always going to carry the same sort of energy, one of urgency, this sense of I need to this to happen or else. Now, when your why is rooted in that kind of fear or urgency, the desire doesn't necessarily feel expansive. It can feel actually quite heavy, quite tight. Maybe it's full of pressure and you're gripping to this desire instead of trusting it. And the irony is, these fear-based desires, They're often the desires that get actually rewarded in our culture. So if you think about it, how often do we applaud the person, the overachiever, the one who never stops, the one who just made it happen because she hustled hard? Just because it works doesn't necessarily mean it's aligned. And just because you can build from fear doesn't necessarily mean you should. Because when the energy behind your desire is off, even if you get what you want, it won't actually feel the way you hoped it would. So you could reach the desire, but you could still feel restless. So you might become the successful, wealthy business owner, for example, but you'll still feel like you're chasing something. You never actually get there. And that's because the energy that you create from, it doesn't disappear when you arrive there. It actually stays with you. So the energy behind your desire actually becomes the atmosphere you have to live in once the desire actually shows up. That energy doesn't magically change when you get there. And this is what most people assume. They assume that, I can hustle really hard, but then when I get there, I'll be able to relax. The energy of being able to relax, that peaceful energy, cannot happen if the desire was built on anxiety. So let's say you build something from fear. You will have to use fear to keep that desire alive, to sustain that desire. If you create from pressure, you're going to constantly feel pressured to maintain. If you chase something from lack, you're never going to feel safe enough to actually just relax and enjoy the thing that you've created. So yes, it can work. It can work for a while. You can hit the milestone. You can achieve the goal. You can get the thing, and it might look like success from the outside, but eventually the energy that built it, that created that desire, starts to show through the cracks. And once that excitement fades, what's going to be left is the tension, because the vibration that created the desire itself is still there. It's still weaved into everything that you do. And this is when that resentment creeps in. Not because the thing itself is wrong, but because you can feel the weight of the energy that built that desire. You actually start to feel trapped by your own creation. So it might be that the business that you dreamed of now feels like this huge pressure thing. Maybe the relationship that you desired, the soulmate that you called in, it now feels really heavy to maintain. And you tell yourself things like, once I get there, then I'll slow down. Once this launches, then I'll relax. But energetically, it doesn't work like that. You can't build something from hustle then expect to sustain it from a place of peace and ease. You can't manifest from constantly feeling like you need to prove yourself, that kind of energy, and then expect it to suddenly feel effortless. The vibration that creates the thing becomes the vibration that governs the thing. So if you have ever built something and felt resentful of what it takes to keep it, that's why. It's not because you're ungrateful, it's because your energy knows it was created from contracted energy, tense energy, not alignment. So really, the work of manifestation, it's not about forcing the universe to give you what you want. It's aligning your energy before you create it so that when it does arrive, it actually feels natural to hold and sustain your desires. When the energy matches the creation to sustainment, you don't have to fight to keep what you want. You just have to keep being the version of you that called it in, the version that you've already been practicing, the version you know how to be. Now, it's actually just recently that I've had an example of this with someone that I've been working with. She's actually a coach. She's been in her business a while and she's hit some amazing milestones. And she told me, I thought getting here would finally make me feel free, successful, but I actually just feel this heavy burden of responsibility and pressure to keep it up. And we started talking and it became very clear that her business hadn't necessarily been built from inspiration, partly so, but it had also been built from a lot of pressure to prove that she could do this on her own, pressure to never depend on anybody financially, pressure to be able to provide for her loved ones. This was the energy that she'd used to create her business. Gripping, driving, over functioning. The kind of energy that says, if I don't keep pushing, everything is going to fall apart. And yes, it worked. It worked to get her there. She reached her goal. She achieved success. But the moment she tries to relax, she's unable to. because the structure of her success had been built around pressure. So pressure was the only energy that actually felt normal. And while she kept telling herself, oh, I'd like for this to be easy. I want to take time off. I want to just enjoy what I've been able to build. Every time she tried to step back, she not only felt huge amounts of anxiety, but she felt that her business actually would start falling apart. It wasn't necessarily her business that was the problem. This wasn't a business issue. It was the energy from which her business had been built. She was trying to sustain something created in a vibration that no longer matched who she was becoming. So it wasn't about making big changes within her business or burning it all down or changing niches or creating new programs. It was really about rebuilding her relationship with success itself, redefining what freedom looked like, allowing herself to create from a new kind of energy, one that was rooted in trust, not intentional pressure. So again, success, it's not about how much you can achieve. It's about how lightly you can hold what you've built. So much of what we call ambition is really just a search for safety. We're just hoping that once we have more, we will finally be able to just relax and feel safe. But the safety part, that doesn't come from achieving more. It's not through having more. It's actually in the way we creating our desires in a different way. We're taught to measure growth by speed, by effort, by outcomes. But I think the real evolution happens when we start measuring it in energy, by how peaceful it feels to sustain what we've achieved. I think that is the real success. You cannot build something from tension or pressure or misalignment and expect the result to feel like peace and ease and freedom. Eventually, everything you build will ask you, can you hold this with softness? And the answer will depend on the energy that built it in the first place. Now, this work is not about shrinking your dreams. It's about aligning your energy so deeply that your dreams feel safe when they do arrive. So a couple of questions to check in with yourself. Before you reach for more, I want you to pause and just ask yourself, am I creating this from fear or from trust? And then if I got everything I'm asking for tomorrow, would I feel free holding it, or would I secretly feel overwhelmed by it? Remember, alignment isn't just what gets you there, it's what lets you stay. So I hope this resonated with you today, and I will catch you on the next episode.
If today's episode lit something up in you and you are ready to build a coaching business that not only changes lives but creates the income and freedom you deserve, then right now you can request a free trial of our She Leads Academy coach training. To get your free trial, just head over to Instagram and visit us at she_leads.academy. You will find the link to the free trial in our bio. I cannot wait to see what's possible for you.